Marco Rubio. Now, on top of being Secretary of State, he is the interim national security advisor, acting administrator of USAID, acting archivist for the National Archives. You voted to confirm him as Secretary of State. Let's just say it's a big job. Now adding 3 more onto his plate. What questions do you have about how the work of diplomacy and national security are being carried out right now?
Listen, I worked well with Marco during our tenure when I was chair and he was vice chair of the Intelligence Committee. Candidly, I've been disappointed by, for example, his unwillingness so far to stand up for American soft power, for example, that comes out through USAID. We basically wasted 70 years of trying to work with particularly developing countries. And I can already tell you, China has rushed in with pennies on the dollar to fill the void. I don't have the foggiest idea how you can be Secretary of State, head of USAID, and now National Security Advisor. I've met with national security advisors, obviously Jake during the Biden administration, but during the first Trump administration. This is a full-time job plus. And the idea that you can do that national security component and still lead the diplomatic efforts that are frankly being so undermined by the erratic behavior of Trump, from the tariffs to basically turning our allies into enemies. I mean, again, who would have ever thought that, Canada has completely changed their view of the United States in 100 days of a Trump administration. I still like Marco a lot, respect him, been disappointed by some of his actions, but I don't know how in any kind of rational way you could do, literally 2 of these jobs, little more than the 3 or 4 that he's got assigned at this point. And it shows, I think, this requirement of, grand fidelity to the leader. I mean, you could have looked at that cabinet meeting the other day and you could have taken out Donald Trump's image and put in Kim Jong-un from North Korea. You could have been the same kind of cabinet meeting where everybody has to go around and pledge allegiance to the great leader. Frankly, it was disgusting and un-American.
That is my own Virginia Senator, Democrat Mark Warner. And yes, I agree that nauseating display at Trump's cabinet meeting the other day was disgusting and un-American. But you know what else is un-American and disgusting, Senator Warner? Marco Rubio's complete personality transplant ever since he joined the Trump regime. Hi, my name is Suri Crowe, and you're watching the MeidasTouch Network. Let's break this down. All right, Marco Rubio's Cuban-born parents arrived in the U.S. as refugees, and they were not naturalized citizens until well after Marco's birth. So it is pretty freaking hypocritical that the Secretary of State, plus 3 new jobs, is now a hardliner on birthright citizenship, the American constitutional right that we all have, that the Trump regime is now desperate to overturn. Now that he's wearing more hats than weirdo Elon Musk is for dear leader Trump.
I still like Marco a lot, respect him.
All right. So this is what worries me a lot, because how can you respect him anymore, Senator? Marco Rubio has personally signed off on the illegal kidnappings of Tufts PhD student Rumeysa Ozturk, Colombia peaceful protester Mahsen Madawi, and more than 238 migrants, because we're finding out about more and more men and teenagers, by the way, every day that the Trump regime trafficked. I refuse to call it deportations because that would imply that you follow the rule of law and give these people due process. They traffic them off to a death camp in El Salvador. This dude is a lawyer. He is the Secretary of State. It is his job and his role to uphold America's standing for the rule of law on the world stage. And this was his response in the Oval Office, in the audience of a self-proclaimed dictator, El Salvador's Nayib Bukele.
We're the capital of the world, into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal, released into.
I mean, there's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah,
they're sick. These are sick people. Marco, do you have something to say about
that? Yeah, I mean, Stephen outlined it. I don't understand what the confusion is. This individual is a citizen of El Salvador. He was illegally in the United States and was returned to his country. That's where you deport people back to their country of origin, except for Venezuela that wasn't refusing to take people back, or places like that. I can tell you this, Mr. President. No, the foreign policy of the United States is conducted by the President of the United States, not by a court. And no court in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple.
The utter lack of empathy in Rubio's voice, like something has clearly happened to him. I mean, it really does almost smack of a cult member. Like he's just not the same person. Something has happened. He has checked out any empathy or regards for humanity. I mean, he used to be completely the opposite of the way he's behaving now. Then there was this stunt the other day in the Kim Jong-un, Donald Trump cabinet meeting.
You brought up El Salvador in your remarks. Have you been in touch with El Salvador about returning Abrego Garcia? Has a formal request from this administration been made?
Well, I would never tell you that. And you know who else I'll never tell? A judge. Because the conduct of our foreign policy belongs to the President of the United States and the executive branch, not some judge. So we will conduct foreign policy appropriately if we need to, but I'll never discuss it. And no one will ever make us discuss it because that's how foreign policy works.
What are you, Marco? 7 years old, telling off your little sister? I'll never tell. I'm never going to tell a judge. Like, what are you doing? This is some scary shit. The Supreme Court has ordered you, i.e. the Trump regime, to return Mr. Abrego Garcia to the United States so that he can have his day of due process. And your Cuban citizen birthrighted ass is saying nanny, nanny, boo boo. Like what? Who are you? So this brings me back to every single one of the Democratic senators who voted to confirm this punk as Secretary of State, thinking, oh, he'll be the normal one. He will hold it together. As crazy and lunatic and criminal as Donald Trump is, which he is all of those things, Marco Rubio, he'll be the normal one. Well, it's turned out that Marco Rubio has been a disastrous confirmation. He's now illegally endorsing and signing off on kidnappings of people off of American streets. He's just ignoring the rule of law. He's also arguing with the German government on X. He and JD Vance, Marco Rubio was debating or endorsing, rather, I should say, the neo-Nazi fascist party known as AfD, the one that Elon Musk has endorsed and given his double Sig Heils to on X. This is what Marco Rubio put out in a tweet. Germany just gave its spy agency new powers to surveil the opposition. That's not democracy. It's tyranny in disguise. What is truly extremist is not the popular AfD, which took second in the recent election, but rather the establishment's deadly open bore immigration policies that the AfD opposes. Germany should reverse course. Let me be clear. The AfD party is one of white purity. It is a neo-Nazi party. It endorses like a pure white culture only. It is a new Nazi party. And Marco Rubio just backed that party up. Our Secretary of State just endorsed this party to the German government. And the German government, the German Foreign Office, responds with this to our American Secretary of State. This is democracy. This decision is the result of a thorough and independent investigation to protect our Constitution and the rule of law. It is independent courts that will have the final say. We have learned from our history that right-wing extremism needs to be stopped. So if you are not aware of this, all Germans learn the history of how Hitler rose to power. They study it as kids in school so that the exact same horror show does not repeat itself. I cannot tell you how many Germans reach out to me personally all of the time saying, we are very frightened for what we see happening in America right now, because this is what happened as the Nazis were rising to power. So they as a nation are intimately familiar with what happens when a right-wing fascist party gets out of control and starts to gain power. So that's what they are telling Marco Rubio in that response there. They're like, the reason that we are now going to have to really keep an eye on the AfD party is because we see that it is dangerous. We see that this is a dangerous party that needs to be like monitored before it gets out of control, because 6 million Jews and also many thousands of other people who were also murdered by Hitler's regime for dissenting. Hello? My God. So Marco Rubio is every bit as lawless as the rest of the people in the Trump regime is my point. So respectfully, Senator Warner, spare me saying that you like and respect Rubio. He does not deserve your respect anymore. And what gravely concerns me is that you and several other members of the Democratic Senate, the Democrats in the Senate, keep on playing along like things are normal. 16 of you, including both of my senators, Warner and Senator Tim Kaine, just confirmed David Perdue as Trump's ambassador to China. What are you doing? Stop normalizing anything with this regime. I am simply out of words at this point. Why are you confirming anything that Trump wants? Throw sand in the gears of everything possible. Remember when Senator Tommy Tuberville decided to block all military promotions for nearly a year over his objections to the Biden administration's abortion rights policies? Remember that one? Tuberville completely jacked up our military safety. The least you can do is hold off on ambassadorships to China and Italy in defiance of an authoritarian regime under Trump. It just astounds me how many Democrats in Congress still do not seem to understand the imminent danger we are in. A lot of these senators, they've been there for decades and they're playing along like our friends across the aisle. No. This is war. We are in a war for, I sound like President Biden, but God love him, the soul of our nation. Did you not see us protesting in the streets, calling out for the survival of the shreds of what's left of our democracy? No doubt every single Republican needs to be removed from office, every single one of them, because they are all aboard the fascist train now. But if our own representatives are not fighting this fascist regime with every single ounce of their might too, and I mean everything, then what are they doing there? And I would encourage any of you who are watching this video right now to take a look at what your own reps are doing, because a lot of it may seem innocuous, like, oh, they just signed off and confirmed on, Trump's picks for ambassadorships to China and Italy and so on and so on. But that's another, they're acquiescing to what Trump wants. Unless it's something that is expanding Medicaid. They are signing off on MAGA Republicans like Perdue. No, those are not the things that you agree to. You stop everything. You stop, you obstruct, you oppose everything. I shouldn't be having to say this as a journalist and as a citizen. That's not my job really. But the fact that they don't seem to realize that and they have the power in the Senate to stop and obstruct, Tommy Tuberville may be the biggest dumbass in the world, but he was smart enough to know that he shut things down to get something that he wanted. And I am blown away that 16 Democratic senators were like, okay, we'll just go along. I believe that we need people in office like AOC, like Bernie Sanders, fighting everything. The whole kitchen sink at this point needs to be thrown against the wall. The time is long gone for you to be we'll just try and work with our friends across the aisle. That is just some crazy ass stuff. No, you do everything you can at this point. All right, I've said enough. The whole point is the very survival of our nation as a free country is on the line. Okay? So thanks for watching. I hope to see you back here soon. Please follow my socials linked below, and please come support my brand new Substack. Remember, courage is contagious, and don't give an inch. It's an inch that we won't get back. Not anytime soon. Okay? Peace.
Love this video? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch and help us blow past 1 million followers.